Hello, guys. Happy Friday. Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists, aka LEAH Podcast. I'm so excited. I have the best news. Okay, so not only do we have a guest, because we've had guests before, but tonight we have a guest co host, someone I admire, someone I love, someone I consider family, him and his wife. I've learned so much from these conversations that I just send him a message and he's always there for me. I just am excited to introduce our guest co-host for tonight on the League, Apetivist, Mr. Ape. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Apetivist. I've been a general activist, as I consider myself a generalist, in various fields. Primarily, I started off on Facebook after being motivated by John W. Loftus and Professor David Madison, who were running their campaigns for their books. And of course, they came to know who I was and my backstory. We became very personal, good friends. And as a result, they were like, hey, Jonathan, you have an important story to tell. And I don't care if anybody knows my first name, please don't dox me for anything else. But beyond that, I would decided that I would go ahead and jump off Facebook because I was not welcome to the family type members I have and friends. It just became overly controversial. I decided to go with an anonymity for many reasons, which I will not divulge. But believe you me, I'm not on some list, not necessarily that you have to know about. And then the other thing I did was I decided to become Apetivist, which is a combination thereof of the word ape, obviously, that we all related to hominidia, that we belong in that family. The other thing is activist. I'm an activist. And in a way, it's a kind of a play on a word on epistivist, which if you're not aware of it, it just simply means that you think that faith is not an honest way to go about life. So with that exception, I moved in many directions on my life, adopting humanism. I used to be a former conservative. Also, I was deeply into hello, Mommy Chihuahua. I was deeply into a religious movement and a minister for 5 years, left it, ran off to the army, got out of the army, didn't know much about atheism, aside that I could escape Christianity through it. Long short, I got a disease. It got me out of my profession. I started looking at four walls and watching TV, and that's when I found these atheists and skeptics alike. Got me very interested in it. I studied like hell throughout the day, throughout the night. Doing that, for some reason, it's become addictive. That's all I got to say. And of course, I'm more of a social activist now. Although I'm off Twitter, it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily not doing things behind the scenes.
He's very
and of course, I have my most wonderful wife, Susan, who is always supportive, loving, and kind. My caregiver and my dear true love.
Your best friend and love of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
My Aunt Susan and Uncle Abe.
I couldn't let her part. That's right.
I wouldn't
you
let her and I would hunt you down.
Adopted niece.
That's right.
You would hunt me down.
We would. Oh, we would. I'd use roller skates if I had to.
You're a vanilla killer. All right.
So, right. I'm an OG.
With all that in mind, you are the OG. You are. All right. So anyway, there's nothing worse than a cracker like me saying shit like that. All right, there we go. I'm going to do a little shout out and then we can go from there.
Okay.
I want to say, everybody, If you know Critical Cripple on Twitter,
I agree.
please, please. They have The Bin, which is his show on YouTube. David needs the attention. He's got people from all over the world showing up on his show with amazing views and perspectives. And I think there's so much to learn from that show. Of course, you already know I'm kind of biased about the LEAH Podcast. In addition to that, I would like to say there's a guy named Ease. Easeism, EASEISM, at on Twitter, but he's also on Instagram. This guy's work, thoughts, ideas are lit. He needs to be recognized for his amazingness, or is it how amazing he is? The other people I would like to say, of course, everybody's probably already knows who Luna Oi and Over Capit is, Reeducation, and Twin Rabbits. That's all I'm going to say right now. But find these people on Twitter. If you're not doing it, find the time every once in a while to give them a little shout out and say, hey. All right. That's all I got to say.
All good choices.
Oh, really. All right. Bye. Bye, y'all. All right. Have a good night.
Goofball. Okay. Apetivist is a silly goose monkey. If you look it up, there's a picture of Apetivist. However, there's so much in his noggin to learn from, and we love to talk about any of the politics we talk about. We talk through very humanist lens, very empathy and what's wrong. But we never end it with that. We always end it with what are ideas to make it better.
Absolutely.
And I love those kind of conversations. So there's so much going on. We figured that anything that we talk about is going to be in depth, and we'll also have like our ideas that we think would be good to try. There are problems right now that are acknowledged, but nobody's trying anything or even talking about it. So I think it's important to have people in our community that actually sit down and say, I acknowledge these problems. Now, what are the ways about this that I can make a difference, even if it's just little, that I can inspire someone else to make a difference, that we could do this together? Apetivist is one of those people. That's why I just enjoy having those conversations. And we wanted to talk about a couple things, but first, Apetivist wanted to talk about one thing in particular, and that's kind of like, what the hell's going on in the world right now? What the heck? There's massive issues everywhere. And it seems to me that the empire is involved somehow in all of them. I live in the empire, and so does Apetivist. And we've got a bone to pick, because there's no such thing as a moral empire. It just cannot be.
I totally agree.
Right. So, would you?
Something went silent. Okay, there we are. Okay, I didn't know you were going by Mommy Chula. That's cool. I love that.
That's my email.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I just dox you? All right,
Mommy Chula,
I apologize.
the first part of my email.
Oh, the first part. All right. Okay.
I got the same email for like 18 years.
Yeah, it's like my my combative system that I taught. I still have that email. It'll never go away.
Right.
It's such a long name. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you're right. All right. You're right. Is my voice coming through?
Perfect.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, honestly, there are tons of people talking about this stuff. It's just that we have limited exposure to it because of the way the mainstream media, ran by 6 major corporations, controls what the American people see and oftentimes believes about the reality in which we exist. Yes, this is a conspiracy theory of a bad cabal, evil, child killing, whatever. You know, the truth is, it's worse than that. Okay.
Yeah. They're just saying, look over here at this. Don't look at this.
There is no legitimate media outside of independent media, which is delegitimized more often, even though they may call them out or may even say that they said this or that. It's never an establishment way of recognizing or rectifying with the problems, issues, and solutions by which we in this community, massive community of leftists, think about and what we try to provide as a solution. So I am just one simple voice, but I try to put in time, learn from others. And I got to tell you, there are so many amazing people to learn from. When we wall ourselves off doctrinally, in any way, we keep ourselves from, I'm sure most of the audience already knows this, so I'm probably just talking to a big yes crowd. But if there's someone in there that you think, well, I am absolutely for sure that America is the greatest nation on earth and that we just had problems in the past and we can move past that. Well, I'm going to introduce you to an individual. Oh, let me just say one thing. Damian Marie at Hope.
Yes, we've had him on.
Damian Marie at Hope is someone who I absolutely love.
Same.
Insight.
That is beautiful.
The man's mind is just beyond recognition. All right.
I could talk to him for hours.
Yeah. Another person I would like to call out, because this is from one of his articles, and is Elpidio Valdez. Okay. And you've had him, I believe, on your show once.
Yep.
I'm not sure. Okay, so Apetivist is an incredibly in-depth thinker, an evaluator of these problems that has been systemic. Thank you to Randolph Richardson for telling me the difference between systemic and systematic. Thank you. But the point is that Elpidio and others like him bring up, in my opinion, although I'm not a historian, it's not like this information is too well hidden. And the issue really revolves around the principles of concentration of wealth and power. And I'm not going to build it all completely off of what Elpidio had to say. But I have to point it out because this is a critical article he wrote. Yes. And it's all right. So he wrote it in response to the Requiem of the American Dream, he says, is a timely 75-minute teach by Noam Chomsky, the MIT linguistics professor who has been a leading leftist political analyst, critic, and writer for 6 decades. But then he goes on and he describes things that Chomsky has noted, all right? Now, I love Chomsky. There's some things that I agree completely on. There's some things that I don't, and that's fine. Because we don't have to all have complete agreement in order to learn and accept these things from these beautiful people.
You're missing out on humanism and the experience of having a beautiful conversation if you will only talk to people who agree with all of your views. How boring.
Hey, sir, there's no way. You'll never find that person. They don't exist.
No.
Okay, here we go. Number one, reduce democracy. The people that think that we live in a democracy, I'm going to bear some bad news to you. If you accept that a representative democracy is sufficient to advocate for your voice, you are sadly mistaken. I'm not going to be like Joe Biden, who says socialism nor communism doesn't work, but give no damn details. Okay, so what are we going to do about this? If we understand from the very founding of our nation that the founding fathers, as often touted as great men of majestic characteristics, that they were very, very dedicated to protecting themselves and their wealth. So, if from my first thesis in political science, I wrote a controversial thesis, and it was the founding fathers didn't give a fuck about the people. And I know that, oh, I apologize. Am I allowed to do that?
You can say whatever you want.
Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you. All right. And really, I didn't say that in a thesis title, but it was completely implied. And in it, although back then I was a libertarian, oddly enough. So a libertarian could be correct about some things. Okay. So in it, I was very disturbed by the racism I encountered in the military. All right. It was all around me.
Right.
All right. It was all around me. All right. Don't tell me if you're in the military, the only color you see is camo green or what have you. No, I'm sorry. You're not going to find that. It's in a damn comic book. It doesn't exist in reality.
Right.
All right. So Madison himself was absolutely open about this, about protecting the power of the opulent. Okay. The number 2 is shape ideology. Ideology. What is that? Right. Is ideology good? Is it neutral? Is it bad? Well, the real question is, it depends. Right?
Yeah,
ideology can be good. It can be neutral. It can be terrible. And all of those things also have their own spectrums, right? Their depths, their hills, all that, their valleys. But in reality, if we think about it, we are always told what our nation is, particularly from those who conquered indigenous Americans, used slavery to build their nation, by the way, it's their nation. And the fact is, we are the most indoctrinated people in, I would say, not just the Western world, but the whole world. It is a 24/7 now ongoing attempt to maintain the status quo, to continue forcing us into our stereotypical boxes of the peons and those who live in their ivory towers, who know far better than us to make our own decisions for us.
Yes.
Yes, I know. Yes. I know. I almost sound like a Trumper, don't I?
No.
But there's a reason why
you've got to keep the population separated, or you cannot rule.
There's something a very good friend of mine said. His name is at Pluratus, like the emperor.
Oh, wow.
And he said, it's always right and left, never forward. So what we have to keep in mind here.
Yeah, nothing's black and white.
It's always an internal contradiction. One side versus the other side. Right. Like Peter Kropotkin said, the great founder of anarcho-communism. I will not say that he was completely blameless of people. And I will never excuse him for some of the terms that he used in his books. However, we can always learn. And something he greatly said was the law of the jungle is what? Can anyone fill in it? Competition. But what is the law of society, he said? Cooperation. But do we find that law operating in our duopolistic government?
Right.
Do we find this so-called ghost hand reaching across through a ghost hand to go across the aisle? No. All we see is a continued reification of their capability to hold on to their power, their privilege, their position, and their dominance
Right.
through control of propaganda, the ideology that that fills the American's head every day. No matter where you go, I'm going to stick on it. I'm going to say it. You may love the stories, the comic books and all, but Marvel and DC is an imperialistic propaganda machine.
Yes.
You can look past the story, but it's there. The military is never portrayed in a negative light. And do you know why? Because the DOD makes sure that if they want their money, it must color the empire in such a way that is not negative. Okay? I have records, others have the records of them, and I can later on my website, I will provide all these links. Or I'll simply provide them to Christy and she can put them up.
Yes.
But here it goes.
And has
Christy
anyone seen the whole Captain America episode that Fox faux news went, like, they went bananasharon.com on this because he suggested that we can do better. That's it. They're like, this leftist ideology is taking over our comic heroes that are fictional.
And do forgive me if I do tend to have a if this seems negative, I apologize. Personally, I think the Democrats use identity politics, particularly in a way they class struggle, whether or not it's homosexuals, people of color, migrants, or what have you. They utilize them, in a sense, to normalize themselves and their policies. Okay, so they have to accept that the population is changing or that people have come out of the closet. Hello, I'm an atheist, Joe Biden. You know, you forgot to mention us during your fucking inauguration church meeting. But the whole idea is that other people exist other than you. All right, so you claim that e pluribus unum. But the fact is, no, that's a lie. We would like to believe that we are a nation of great diversity. But so much goes into making sure there's not too much diversity. You got to stay within the lines. If you break out of it, you're not welcome. Okay. The other one is redesign the economy. You know how why should they do that? It's working for them, right? No, it's working for only them. Neither you nor I. If you are a worker, unemployed, like for myself, I depend on the SSA disability as well as my VA compensation pension for being 100% physically disabled. I'm not mentally disabled. Well, I'm not. So what does that tell you? It tells you technically that unless you're at the top and you're benefiting off the gravy of the people, you're not really what matters in the institution of their policies. They may even seem to embrace what I imagine is beautiful idea of tolerance. But let me tell you, I do not think liberals are leftists. You're going to hate me on that. I don't think they are. In fact, I think, and of course, I'm going to provide lots of evidence toward this, that I've had people tell me, not Aunt Nancy, no, not that, not Chuck Schumer. No, they wouldn't do things. Look at their records. The other one is shift the burden. The American dream in 1950s and 60s was partly real, right? Both the rich and the poor got richer, according to Oedipus. This is part 4. But he says, but since then, and it is true, we all know this, the steady advance of what Chomsky calls the plutonomy of the precariat. That is the wealthy few who run the show and get all the new wealth, and the precarious proletariat. That's you and I. If you're listening to the show, chances are you're not Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi. And back then, taxes were quite high on corporation dividends and wealth, but not anymore. And it's very obvious that the top 1% makes the mass crust of wealth in this nation. I am an anarcho-communist. That may come as a surprise to people. I went from full right to libertarian to being a progressive to dropping off that edge. But let me tell you, the one thing they do want to do is attack solidarity. Even FDR made sure that he provided the New Deal in anticipation that leftists were going to rise up. He wanted to keep the people placated rather than us grow together through solidarity. Okay, because we could fix the system if we righted the system. And what's wrong with the present system now has always been what's wrong with it from its original inception. It is there to protect the rich and the powerful. Okay. Now, anything you got to say? That's all I'll say right now. I'll go through 6 downward later. But you know why I'm basing this on DFPO? Not only the fact that I was writing all this stuff on my phone, but then it lost power. And when I went back to it, it was gone. And it's not like I can't think of what I wrote, but the fact is, I can start from any base of criticism of capitalism in the empire and know that I'm on target. Okay. Hello? Oh, shit. Ah. Oh, no. What's going on? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right. Where did it cut off? I don't know where. Wow, I was really on the roll. Oh, so it was Christy that got knocked off, not myself. Am I correct? Oh, okay. All right. I didn't want to. All right. Hey, everybody. I apologize. When I get rolling, it's hard for me to stop. I'm also a high functioning autistic person. And so you got that too. You got to smack me on the head. I'll shut up. All right. Oh, okay. Uh-oh. Oh, no. See, I can't see her either. So I can't. I'm speaking to a ghost.
Okay.
His name is Nacha. Okay.
Hello. Now everyone will be able to hear me. Hello, people. We've had a bit of a technical...
Let me give her a call. I'm going to give her a call right now. I'm going to call her.
I think she's...
Is she trying to come back in?
Yeah, she's in she's in again, but she's on mute and... Oh, hello.
All right. Well,
Christy, are you there?
You're on mute. All right.
She's not now.
Oh goodness. Well, still. You know what? It's come on. We already know who's doing this.
The Illuminati.
No. Well, I got to tell you, the all-seeing eye really is out there. And you being a tech guy, we already understand that they can even tell who you are remotely through your location, if you provide it somehow, as well as your typing patterns and the rate of, not just the rate of your typing, but also they can tell by the usage of common words that you use here and there. So they can put together profiles on the internet and build a large index of citizens.
It's absolutely true. I'm kind of just worried.
They
about
don't
the way
need
Christy
a video
is.
camera to know who you are. Or they can at least get a close guess as to who that individual is. I showed that her mic is now unmuted.
Yes, but haven't heard it yet. Nor do I see. There's always something that's got to go wrong.
I hope I didn't say something that upset her.
No.
Oh goodness, I don't think so. She's not like that. Okay, so. Oh, she said her audio isn't working. Oh,
have you double checked the settings, bottom left of the Zoom screen? Click on the little arrow near the mute button, and then you can click audio settings. Just make sure, or even just there, actually, you can see what your speaker and microphone are, and see. Just make sure that they're on the right one.
I'm a free radical. Haha. That's one of my jokes. Not a good joke. All right.
I was just thinking, have we got any questions or anything at the moment in the chat, or anything that?
Yeah, I can't. By the way, I can't see the chat. I don't know
That's
how
right,
the chat is seen.
Try and keep an eye.
Oh, that's right. I got to turn on my TV and turn off the sound. I'm a genius, I tell you. Not. Okay. All right, let me see here. All right. I'm so new to this streaming stuff. I really am. She said, can you hear us?
No, that's me asking Christy.
Oh, that's you asking her. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Like I said, I've never done Zoom.
No, you're right. It's all good. I mean,
I've always done like Google Meets and like YouTube, like, whenever they used to allow us to meet that way. Let me see.
Vibrantly, Brantley asks, how are you so smart?
I'm aware of how dumb I am. I'm aware of the depths of my ignorance. And I'm aware of the limitations of my ability to comprehend my world. So I go to other people. I'm not smart on myself. If anything, I'm built because a massive number of people have laid that path for me. And it may seem like I've come about this in a roundabout way. And yes, that's true to a degree, but there is some method to the madness, and that is to speak less, listen more, although I do speak a lot. Anybody that knows me will tell you I just go on and ramble for hours if they'll let me. But really speak less, listen more, and read, and vary your sources. We all know that too. This is something I come up with. So Brantley, you are one smart person yourself, and I'm not going to say that anyone in this room is any less intelligent or capable than myself. I don't believe that at all. We all know that intelligence is rather spread throughout groups of people, whether they be religious, non-religious. I hate it when leftists say that the right-wingers aren't intelligent. That's what they want you to do. I hate whenever people say Democrats aren't smart. That's what you want to do. The truth is, we're all capable of discerning patterns and ideas and views, some dishonestly, some honestly, and some confusedly. Does that answer you, Brant? Oh, I gotta go.
Definite thorough answer there.
I try to be a good communicator, and it's difficult. Uh, okay, difficult.
Oh, we can hear your.
Oh, I
screen in the
know. I've
background
just
there.
turned it down. I saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm a
We
noob.
Start a feedback loop, otherwise.
Right. Don't want that.
No.
Okay, let me go to the live chat. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, well, that's fine. Oh, there it is. Yes, I do. All right. Live chat, come on. Oh, I see what I got to do. I got to enter the other way. Give me a teeny moment. And I'm going to
probably
go.
be on the YouTube stream itself.
Right, I got to do it this way. Yeah. All right. Okay. Forgive me. I'm such a noob when it comes to stuff like this. I am
That's
not
all right.
a technophobe. It's just that I pretty much well kept to myself and only did Twitter and appeared on interviews or what have you, but I was never in. I just don't do the coordination of things like that. All right, so here we go. I'm back in here, and I'm going to make sure.
So we've got Christy back in the Zoom chat, but for whatever reason, her microphone doesn't seem to want to be working. So I don't know what to do.
Oh no! Well, I tell you what. If I have to, if we have to, we'll keep running the show. And if she can find herself back in, that's fine. Unless you want me to stop, and we can just continue later. I'm fine with whatever decision you guys have. Oh my goodness! I didn't know all these people were in here. I'm just looking. I apologize. I don't want to appear rude. I'm just very noobish about this. Theoretical. I love that name. Casey Randy. Nacha, of course. Alias fake name. Love that guy. All right. Nacha. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we got you. Yeah, man. Wow. Okay, so all right, we got Lord Brandt. Of course he's a Lord. My Lord. And my non-savior. Joshua Propulsioner. And hope I didn't angle that. RB. Oh, and wow. Okay, thank you all for being here. I thank you. And I know a lot of people are just watching, not in the chat, or they said they would, and that's fine with me. Or if they do it later, that's fine with me. What about debt slavery? RB is taking forever. That slavery issue, not you, RB, has been poisoning the USA for hundreds of years. Oh, RB, you are so right. RB is so right. It has poisoning the USA for hundreds of years. May I basically give a shout out to a wonderful documentary that's on HBO, and it's called Exterminate All the Brutes. The idea of racism being systemic is wholly evident in this documentary. And not only is it that, but it also harkens back to the days of great glory of Manifest Destiny, where the white man was destroying everything in his path that got in the way of him taking over land and claiming that it was his by divine right.
It's such a disgusting concept, isn't it?
It truly is. But if you think about it now, let's look at another thing that great man said. I apologize, I don't have his name. That made Exterminate All the Brutes. It's got presently 4 seasons. I'm sorry, 1 season, 4 episodes. Okay, and oh yeah, Raoul Peck, Raoulpeck. I've never seen a documentary that has affected me so much in my life. The closest that could ever get to it is Chomsky's the one that we've already talked about, manufacturing consent. I'm not saying that other ones are not great, but this one really hits home. And it's highly, highly supported by Sven Lundquist, Richard Brake, Roxanne Dunbar, Noam Chomsky, and so many other scholars. It's incontrovertible that our system is based not only on racism, but it's also touts back to the day of that great expansion, imperialism. For an example, look at all the helicopters and a lot of the military equipment is like spitting in the face of indigenous Americans. What do we call them? Native Americans, indigenous Americans. Here's the truth. Look at the name of the Apache, right? That's just one. Black Hawk. All these names harkens back to the time when white men exterminated, controlled, and just obliterated their culture. As they said, the sacred tree had died because of the white man. Listen to Twin Rabbits. He's got a lot to say about that. If you're not going to Twin Rabbits, I highly suggest listening to his wonderful, not only video game essays, but as well as ones about culture that we presently have. Wow, he tears it apart. Anybody else got another question? Oh yeah, theoretical. I just saw something where you said you can have the best intentions in philosophy and act a jackass is the problem. You know, I completely agree, Theo. If I'm guilty of that, please check me. All right, so here's the issue. Karl Marx said, and of course, I have to look back on but Karl Marx said that, basically, philosophers could go on and on all day about things, but unless that philosophy results in a net benefit for humanity, so, I'm terrible at quoting people. But the issue is that, in other words, unless it's useful philosophy, something that can be applied to the real world, it is what that is. It's not very helpful. I'm not poo-pooing on philosophy. I'm just simply saying that if you're going to philosophize about something, do so with the purpose of changing the world. That's what he said. It doesn't change the world. We need to shake up the world and change it. Do I have a Twitter? No, I do not. I was on Twitter for a long time. Let me see, July of 2017, and I got off at May 10th of 2021. I know a lot of people are saying they miss me there. I'm sure some people are glad I'm not there any longer, but I just could not keep juggling all the activities as well as my medical problems. And honestly, I've gotten to where quite frankly, I abhor quite a bit of social media. Tech companies throttling their algorithms, telling you what to say, what you can't say, banning you, shadow banning you. It's terrible. Oh, yes, I agree. Secular humanist philosophy did change the world. Well, it is in the process of changing the world. It changed the world in some ways, I guess, in the sense that it exists, but it's not widely accepted, not as accepted as it should be, because it stands on its own merit. However, we have competing narratives in our society. that want to keep the populace, well, malleable. Religion is one way to do that. As we see Biden and Trump and everybody else appealing to it. They try to act as sanctimonious and godly or whatever as possible. But the truth be known, they're only really interested in maintaining their power. And so are those at the top of these religious structures. Guns. Vibrantly Brantley asked guns. What do you mean by that, Brent? Guns. Oh, my opinion on guns. My opinion on guns as an anarchist. I'm fine with people having guns, but I'm not fine with people being segmented in society where we do not interact with each other, such as the idea of a small commune or a very large district broke up into smaller communes, where we become responsible towards one another. If we realize that an individual that owns guns starts behaving, acting, or saying things that are of concern, we can rectify that situation. But we live in compartmentalized existences in our apartments, in our houses with lawns and fences. How do I feel about fun, contrite, or insurance? Insurance. Insurance is a scam. Driving. Yes, driving. Oh, yes, I've heard this before. Well, what about the regulations? What about someone speeding? Well, you keep doing that, you're going to die. If you drive too slow, drive too fast, there's going to be issues. If you decide to wear your seatbelt, you wear your seatbelt. You don't wear your seatbelt, you get in a wreck. That's on you. This is about personal responsibility. And for the government to try to tell you that you must do this or that is an infringement on your freedom. It's an infringement on your freedom. I don't believe in top-down hierarchies. I believe that our hierarchy should be as flat as possible. And any hierarchy that exists in our societies should be justified. There's no justification, even in the US Constitution, for someone to be above you, like representative democracy presents in the form of a president, vice president, and various other forms of hierarchies that go down the road. Even the so-called checks and balances that we have in our nation is a joke. There is no real check. Could you check Biden if you wanted to? Could you really check Trump in those days? We can march. We can raise our voices. We can show them that we're not going to take this shit no more. But until we really take this type of stuff seriously, it's not going to happen. Now, here's a beautiful example. I am an anarchist. I'm an anarcho-communist by general definition. But if you want to call me I'm fine with just anarchist. I'm open to ideas too. I'm open to ideas, but I know that the freest society that we can have is anarchy. And anarchy doesn't mean chaos and having just complete disorder in society. It's actually the opposite. But it is not built upon an authoritarian doctrine or a top-down hierarchy. Why should someone that has nothing to do with your life make decisions about what goes on in your own life? And I know, I've heard it before. The greed. Oh, somebody can just go in the store and take everything they want. Yeah. You think they're going to let that happen? You got to have justification for what you're doing, particularly if your community knows you and knows you well. They're going to understand that you're building this wonderful system that we could develop. Would you consider yourself? Yes, I'm an anarchist. Okay. Humanism and religion. Well, theoretically, there can be an implicit speciesism involved in humanism. I abide by certain tenets that I believe are compatible with humanism, but I'm not a dogmatic humanist. In fact, I think, like a lot of people say, we've got a lot of problems because we're humans and we do a lot of human stuff that is fucked up.
Still there?
Exactly. You can, yeah, right. Some things are not to be decided democratically. You have to leave the people individual freedom. Exactly. But if you think all laws are designed through the threat of coercion, violence, and of course, did I say threats? Oh yes, threat, coercion, and violence. And because we have a punitive system of judgment justice, if you even want to call that justice, we're not solving the issues that are the core of the problems in our society, which is greatly stems from our capitalistic society, our capitalistic nation. That's the exact difference between positive law versus natural law. I agree. Natural law is bullshit. Positive law is not. I agree. We need to be, that's exactly the, yeah, okay. So we need to work on, like some other nations have, whether we totally eliminate. Honestly, I'm willing to get any kind of change toward the positive, but I hate incrementalism. And that's why I'm really totally for a general strike, a revolution, mutual aid throughout our communities, and us saying enough is enough. I do not want a violent revolution. If it becomes violent, it's not because we, as anarchists or socialists, want it to be that way. We believe in self-defense, but violence is manipulative and harmful, but counter-violence is an act of self-preservation. Capitalists do not things based on self-preservation. They do it all on the preservation of their power and their wealth. Why I call myself an ethical realist? Absolutely. Some things just have to be granted and can't be decided over people's head by a majority. I totally agree with you, theoretical. I agree with that. The problem I have with these top-down hierarchies going from religion outward is that you're always having to trust that people will make the proper decision and that it will have beneficial aspects to your daily life. That's not the case here. Why does it have to be inherently secular? Can there be a mix of the two? Absolutely. I am one who believes in tolerance, not tolerance to the point whereby we allow abuse on an unprecedented scale. As long as you're not harming someone, that's one thing. However, I would have to say that we can shun people in our society for doing things such as childhood indoctrination. If we decide as a community that's unacceptable to us, then we're going to make it clear to them. Exactly, I agree. I am not one to eradicate religion. I think it'll do its work by itself. But I disagree with Karl Marx in this sense that religion has to be completely eradicated for a freedom to be determined in our lives. I think that's if you want to make it a personal thing, that's one thing. But organized, hierarchical religions need to go. Organized, hierarchical religions need to go. They're unjustified. I agree, theoretical. You're saying secular is not atheist. Secular respects individual religious freedom, but there are then conflicts of interest, like right to circumcision. I agree. And we have to shun those people. In our society, you don't necessarily, through the freedom of association, theoretical. Can you hear me, theoretical?
They should be
All
able
right.
to, definitely.
All right. Through the freedom of association, we can have limited interaction with people, period. We can limit our interactions with people on a community basis. And when they depend on the commune and the community, I can tell you this, it's not like we're going to treat them cruelly, but we can treat them coldly. There's got to be certain repercussions, whether it's through law or not, for being a complete asshole, indoctrinating your children, and mutilating their genitals, much less their minds. I think it's only right that when a child is educated, grows up, and they can make their own decisions based on informed decisions, then and only then, I think, should they make a rational decision about religion. A 6-year-old knows nothing about the nature of the world. They hardly can decipher what's going on around them. We should do some voice chat after show on the LEAH podcast sometimes. You guys are really smart and interesting to talk with. Thank you, Theo. I think the same of all of you. Okay. Is there any other questions that people have for me? I'm hoping that we can get Christy back in.
If you can hear me.
Christy.
Oh,
Now we
there
can
she
hear
is. Hey.
Yeah.
I've been going on and on, but we've been floating without you, but we don't want to float without you.
No, I've been listening. So
Oh,
it's
you have?
been
Oh, thank goodness. All right, so I'm going to be quiet and you'll respond any way you want.
okay. So I did a thing, and then I did another thing, and then I failed at both of those. And then Nacha let me know to try to use my phone, and I followed the thingies, like, whatever. And I'm in. I did a thing, and I did it all by myself with a
Oh,
little.
goodness gracious, I'm so happy you're back.
I've been loving listening to you. It's just, those are the things that we talk about, and it's very important, I think, to have these conversations with your friends. Just the awareness that maybe, hopefully, the next day they'll think about some things, and then they'll go, well, let me look that up. And don't know the truth about things that happened and how they happened and who was involved.
History is hidden from us. A great majority of history is hidden from us.
I agree.
Through our public indoctrination,
agree.
Even in school.
Really hard to fact check Howard Zinn's The People's History of America. I had to bust my butt to fact check before I went around saying I learned all these new things.
There you go.
It's difficult, but you can, and you have to go a lot of times physically to a library and sit down and go like the books that nobody has gone through in ages.
You know, there's one book I'd just like to say, there's one book I want to put on my reading list since watching Exterminate All the Brutes, and that's An Indigenous People's History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar hyphenated Ortiz.
Okay.
Ortiz.
Yeah.
Okay, Ortiz. Yeah.
And I'll put it on my list because I've been going through them.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. Wow.
Burgess reread Howard Zinn's book.
Oh, I read that multiple times. It is a go-to. It's a go-to.
I learned more, I got more, and I even felt more love and empathy for my fellow humans the second time reading it in the last 15 months.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah. There's just so much. The first time I read it, I was more like, I have to make sure this is even true. So the second time I read it, knowing that I'm reading, from our forefathers, not the founding fathers, our forefathers and mothers.
Mhm.
It was a different experience. It helped me understand so much about what's going on today. And then now this last time, it was just for enjoyment. However, I learned even more that my brain just wasn't able to take in at the time. I suggest reading that book to everyone.
Absolutely.
And I just, sometimes I want to I'm like, liar, liar with Jim Carrey. I'm kicking my own ass. I want to just kick my own ass for not knowing who Howard Zinn was until I was in my early 30s.
Well, you got me beat. You got me beat because I didn't know who he was until my late 40s. And the only information I heard at the time was how horrible and unpatriotic he was.
Well, listen, my history teacher, whom I loved and challenged.
But we know that's not true.
Whom I loved and challenged me hardcore. He was reading that book. However, he was reading the book on the down low. Oh, I dropped it. Because he said he felt like he would not bullied, that he would be challenged and might not get his raise if he was reading that book at school. But he told me, when I get done, I want you to read it. And it changed everything then in high school. I was like, listen, do you remember the G7 in 1990s, 5 through 7, how many protests there were, and what was I thought at the time would be about what I read about with Howard Zinn, like a general strike. And then in my teens and early 20s, I didn't understand everything, but I understood those people in the street that's democracy, and that's what I want to be a part of. I got married and the first thing I did when I was, diagnosed and unable to do much but read was ravenously read and learn and fact check and peer review. And so I did this journey because I lost my ability to do a lot of physical things. And I thought, well, my brain is this thing in there that I'm not using all day long for, okay, what do the kids need for breakfast? What are we going to play? What are we going to read? It was like, what am I going to read? What am I going to learn? And I just got obsessed with history. And then science came in, and then philosophy came in. And then I became an atheist. And for all of the league out there, I want you to see, I'll put the light on it. I got it filled in.
Oh, yeah.
So if I run into anybody who knows what that A is and the happy humanist body, and it has the cosmos in it, I guess I'm out all the way. There's no more closet for me. I'm sapiosexual, but likes women a lot. I mean, come on, a booty.
I'm the same way.
You're an honorary lesbian, and I'm glad to have you.
Absolutely. Trapped in a white male straight body. But honestly, and that is, I'm not trying to make any,
No, that's awesome.
I think all forms of sexuality, as long as it involves mature consent,
right,
adult consent is acceptable to me. I don't care what you want to do to each other's body, as long as it's something that you all decide to do. That's fine.
Go for it.
Just be somewhat discreet, unless your community says, oh yeah, you can just
right.
Walk in the
Yeah,
streets. We don't care. Well, if that's the
walk in the
case, then if you
neighborhood.
want to do that, that's fine. I'm not going to shame you for it.
Yes.
Honestly,
No
it's not like
children
something we
should be
haven't seen before.
No children should be walking home from school and be like, what was that? That's inappropriate.
You know, what I
However,
would do is would normalize sex and take away the shame and guilt that is
I
often
agree.
associated with it in our society.
Sex positive
That's
is
a very natural thing.
yes, it really is. All mammals do it, and I'm a mammal.
But we have clothes. Before that, supposedly it was Bigley's.
We also have language, so we're
Right.
privileged, which means we have a responsibility.
I do agree with that. I mean, I'm not saying I would want it that way.
No.
Please don't think I don't. I'm not
Okay,
go
so
fucking
I'm
one of the
obsessed with monkeys and apes. I always have been.
I
The
am
real
too. You know,
orangutan, I just love them. I have statues
it
of
had
them.
to, yeah.
Yeah, and then I saw your name and started reading your tweets back in the day, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of in love with this guy's brain.
You know what's funny, Christy? I knew you before I became Apetivist because I followed you on Facebook when I was in Facebook. And
that's so sweet.
I used to listen to what you said, and
you kind of watched my transition because I was.
I must admit, I wasn't completely fixed on the things you were doing, but I would go in and out. You know, I tried to give
that's why he said
people from different perspectives and a fair amount of looking into what they're saying and kind of generating ideas in my head, because I didn't honestly know much. Quite frankly, it might sound unusual that although I was an atheist I was involved in Christianity until I was 23.
Wow.
Escaped the army. But the idea is that I was a loose atheist, not a loose deist for about 6 months. Then I read Michael Martin's book, Atheism, A Philosophical Justification. And that was back when I was in the army. And of course, I hid that book because I didn't tell anybody I was an atheist. I couldn't do that because we were still shunned. I even put on my dog tags that I was a Christian.
To just know that in the positions that, especially in the units, that you were in, you need to know that they have your back.
Yeah, I didn't want to be shot in the back by someone. Yeah, I didn't want to be shot.
They think that you're,
look at what happened to Matt Tillman.
Yes.
Pat Tillman, pardon me. Pat Tillman was murdered by it was intentional fratricide.
Jesus. Hussein Christ.
Yeah, fuck that shit. That is just horrible. And I gotta tell you, I mean, here's another shout out. The Military Freedom Foundation.
The opposite way. It's an honor killing.
And let me tell you, I had to deal with Mikey Weinstein, who you might know, the Military Freedom Foundation, Military Religious Freedom Foundation, MRFF. I apologize.
I'm a member.
Oh, excellent. Most excellent. Well, I even had a personal case that I lodged with them, and they, with the VA, because of their outright, complete disregard for decency and being in Dallas, in their store, having what I would call only right-wing, so-called right-wing patriotic religious BS that they were selling in the Patriot store, and I had to call that out. And
I mean, separation of church and state, the military state. It can.
Right.
They have intertwined them so well by doing, on Sunday and Monday Night Football. There's a lot of magical thinking going on for the crowd, for everyone watching at home, and I think that is 100% unconstitutional.
Yes, I agree. And of course, even today, it's not unthought of for atheists and, well, I don't know why an anarchist would join the military. Maybe they become one while they're in there. I can understand that conversion, even to become a communist. But you dare not really talk about it.
In me, I have a lot of anarchist in me. I can't be one thing. There's
no, exactly. All right. Now, here's what I say. I am not necessarily 100% of anything, and
Right.
I agree. Yeah, if you if we become that dogmatic, we become inflexible cognitively.
Well, hold on. I'm 100% dope. That's for sure.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, anybody that knows that's you come right away. And I'm dopey, so that's why we're a good match.
That's right.
Right. I'm dopey and you're dope. All right. But, yeah. So what else? I mean, I can just go on, and that's fine. I don't really want to go on too much.
I have this little thing, and then it's followed by a question.
All right.
There are people in Congress, House, Senate. They are our legislators. They write the laws that we are ruled by. If one of them or two of them or a group of them or a squad of them or whatever write a law that is absolutely unconstitutional, my opinion is that, first of all, it has to go before a judge before it's passed. And if that judge is like, this is unconstitutional, and it gets shut down, they should lose their seat that day and never be able to be a senator or a lawmaker again. If you don't understand the Constitution and you can't fight for it, you can't rule over us for it. I think that's prerequisite.
Yeah. Well,
So
presently,
right now
presently, while it is in effect, it's the only thing we got. I think we can do better, but that's fine.
We could do better. We have unconstitutional laws being written and judges just this
Every
last
day.
week. No, this is unconstitutional. They get to just carry on, and I'm just
You know why? Because they've got all the authority and no responsibility. You and I cannot hold them accountable because of the power structure that exists. And it has been said before, we know what the system is for, but what the system does. And the other aspect is, this is how you are told to do things. Go through the official channels. Use the official channels. If you don't do it right, well, start over. And they ask us to use these proper channels because they know they don't work. You're going to be held down.
You actually have to go through the motions. It takes anywhere from 10 to 20 years, but you have to really, really want to change the Constitution. It's called a constitutional convention. You need 34 out of the 51 states to sign on, and then you have a constitution.
I understand I get that. I know that, but here's the issue. All right. The issue is that we are incapable of changing quick enough to meet the problems of our society. Honestly, I have no confidence in the U.S. Constitution, and I have no confidence.
Yeah. I have many times where I'm thinking there's just no
solutions elsewhere. I try to find solutions elsewhere.
Yeah, we're doing both, with wolf-pack.com. We are trying to change the Constitution by getting Citizens United the fuck out of there.
I don't think it'll happen, Christy. I don't think it'll happen. Not with the current system we have.
Well, I'm
not trying to demoralize people. I'm a realist.
I'll be there. I will be there.
I want it to happen. I do. We need separation of corporation and government as much as we need separation of religion and government.
Yes, 100%. And how do you feel about, they are in the streets in Rome because they want universal minimum additional 15% on multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations. They want zero tax havens and they want zero loopholes.
That's wonderful.
This week in Rome, like they understand. With just that, we could change. Many things would change, and they would change fast.
But
we
here's
would
the
have.
problem. I hear that. That's great, and I hate to plug holes in certain things. But as long as oh, I'm sorry, am I breaking up?
No, I can hear you. I said
Okay.
You bring me with the challenging. You always bring me from like here to like level where I'm like, okay, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
as long as the people do not have the means of production, they do not own the means of production, that is, we will continue to experience massive inequality.
Yes.
Okay. So it's like we're appealing with a compromise. Just give us this. When in reality, they're continuously stealing from us through our labor effort.
Yes.
All right. They put value on money. And as Karl Marx says, it becomes like, please forgive my poor, I will continue to, I should have all these things laid out, but I was unable to. But the general premise is that it becomes almost an entity to itself, money. And
yes,
because of that,
God on our money. God
all
is
right, because honestly, money is their God.
Uh-huh.
Okay, money is their God. I don't care how sanctimonious they try to behave.
I agree.
All right, so the general aspect is that as long as we allow the United or even corporate entities to exist, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to see equality. We're not going to see fairness. We're not going to see justice. Now, I know a lot of people will push back on me about anarcho-communism, and that's fine. There's a lot of things we have got worked out. If you've not ever read Alexander Berkman, please give him a try. He was in prison for over 10 years under Mussolini. But during that time, he did nothing but write. All right?
Okay.
Because he had an utmost love for humanity. He wanted people to be free. All right. So, that doesn't make anarchism right. I'm not trying to say because one guy was in jail, many of them were in jail. All of them were in jail. Every one of them. Peter Kropotkin, Bakunin, okay, Proudhon, Marx, Engels, and others.
Engels.
All right. Rosa Luxemburg.
I love reading him. I love reading his just
Rosa
personal.
Luxemburg.
Oh.
Yeah, honestly, it was Engels who got Marx interested in communism, not the other way around.
I agree. Yes.
And so Engels, even after Marx's death, he continued to compile and work arduously, as he did every day in his life. Wow. They were very committed people. And we need that spirit in all of us. And no, I'm not talking about something supernatural. I'm just talking about that attitude, that spirit of desire. Yeah. I'm tired of compromise. Okay. All right. I'm going to say this. Non-compete talks about it. He's got a great article on it. You go to his non-compete. He talks about the liberal fascist bargain. All right. Liberals are more than willing to bargain with fascists as long as it maintains their position. But they make a mistake because they underestimate the power of fascism's popularity. And then they pay the price. And the liberals decide that they can take work from the playbook of the fascists. And by claiming themselves liberals, they can institute fascist policies, just like Biden is doing. So because of that, there is not just a bargain, but one can transmutate into the other, transmorgification. They transmorgify one to the other, whichever fits their procedural power play. And I'm tired of it. I'll be honest with you, I'm tired of it. I don't think the answers lies in capitalism or even the US government or the US Constitution. People can throw me in jail for that, in prison. We already know that Biden has been talking about anarchists being a threat to our democracy, when in reality, it's the opposite. We want a direct democracy, where you make direct decisions about the things that affect your life, period. We might be in a commune, we can agree on things, and then we can do things through federations of communes. But the whole aspect is this: we are going to continue to experience injustice. We're going to continue to experience inequality. We're going to experience all the levels of stress that is brought upon us by this capitalistic system.
Yes.
You cannot unmarry the USA from capitalism.
No, you can't. I read about a month ago
There is no divorce.
peer review that unfettered capitalism causes anxiety, depression, suicide, people that just, you can only work 3 jobs for so long. Once you get a certain age, you just can't. And if none of them come with benefits for retirement, how do you feel cared for?
Christy,
and how do you feel part of a community when you're so alone like that?
Christy, it's the alienation that Marx talked
Why
about.
do you think we
are
have
alienated? It's that alienation. Here's a
the
clear.
individualism is pushed on us for that reason. So we
have no
won't
choice.
come together. We'll stay separated.
They will
Fuck
do
that.
everything they can to keep us from using our collective voices.
Right.
Okay, that's why you do an individual vote, not a collective vote. People think they're collectively doing it, but when in fact they make it illegal or disqualifying for you to talk in the line about politics. That's the time to talk about politics.
To you, or have a snack delivered to you.
That's right.
Water delivered
both
to
the
you.
Dems and the Republicans don't want us
unusual
talking about the issues that affect us daily in a community way.
They're so little and so scared.
They're completely scared. They're scared in the sense that they want to control the flow of information. You know what that is? That's cultic. That is cultic.
Yeah, no, it is. That's on the list that you check off for a cult. That's it.
The bite model. The bite model. Yeah, Stephen has it. Right.
It's also cruel. It's also something a bully would do. There's nothing good about that.
We're the world's worst bully.
Yes. Unfortunately, Abby Martin is in the middle of creating a new documentary. Yes, well, it is terrifying. It's about the climate and everything that's going on, and in the trailer that it's being made right now, it says even if we got rid of, if every car just stopped, we didn't drive any cars ever tomorrow. We just started tomorrow, and there were no more cars. There was no more gas. There were no more jets. We weren't going to space, and every corporation that spewed anything stopped. Nothing would change as far as our climate because of one thing: the motherfucking Pentagon. So I can't wait to watch it so I can sit through all her claims and go in and
dissect it.
Apparently, they're the biggest, C2 polluter. They use the most oil. They blow up stuff. They use the most chemical weapons. They build illegal war criminal bombs, like carpet bombs. Those are illegal. No country makes those but us. And we helped put them on the list of weapons that are illegal during war.
Oh, we can break our own rules because we're the big bully. Nobody can tell us what to do. We've got nukes. Shut the fuck up. We'll do whatever we want to.
I just think that's
The
so
arrogance
ugly.
is profoundly
I don't
unjust.
want that to represent me, and it doesn't represent the people of this country either. That's a huge disconnect.
But they're told that it does. And since they're told that it does, a lot of people actually believe that it does. And I hate to say that, but I wish people would watch shows less and read more.
Yes.
And not just read just one side of bias. They
Oh,
need
no.
to be brave enough to go to uncomfortable
no,
places.
this has to be wrong. They're so mean about this person I love. Read that book. Read it.
Right.
That's how you
Right.
find out. Listen, you guys, when I want to find out history, I read everything that I can from American sources. And then I actually go to other countries, because you can go online and read what their history in their textbooks say about these same things and what their government websites say about these same things. They're never the same. So I get a better picture.
Right.
And then I'm able to sit down and understand a little bit more about what happened without the America. I mean, as I found out as an adult that the Soviet Union's ended the Nazis.
Well, of course. I mean, it took it. Stalin was very angry because he said that America was fought. The World War II was fought with America's money and Russian blood.
Yes.
Okay, so he's right, and a lot of people don't even know what the Lend-Lease program was. Have you ever heard of the Lend-Lease?
I have. Just go into it. So just give us a
okay.
rundown.
Of course, I don't have all the numbers on top of my head.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
With them,
but
but you got to make it interesting.
in spite
so
of the so-called great liberal spirit by which they so generously gave oftentimes their worst goddamn equipment even to Great Britain and Russia, they lent it supposedly on pennies on the dollar, knowing that the stuff was, well, they could have thrown it in the trash and never missed it.
Right.
But the truth being told is that when it came time for rectification of the actual amount owed by Russia, they made a so-called serious clerical error that was not fixed until 1973, which meant that the US unmistakably, of course, they didn't make a mistake for any other country, but they made sure to drive up the cost of the Lend-Lease by at least 11 times. Thus, because they wanted to economically cripple the USSR. The USSR reaction was, incidentally, not so positive. They did everything they could have to help us all win that war with fascists.
Right.
But they didn't realize that the USA was in the pocket of fascists.
Oh, of course. I know all about Operation Paperclip. Look up Operation Paperclip if you want to know how we were all mixed up with the Nazis and how we secretly brought their scientists here and they stayed here and they worked for our.
We said nothing when Hitler was sacking communist communist and socialist groups in his country. Why? Because they weren't capitalists. That's why. And they were co-opting the liberals along with the capitalists in Germany to sack the socialists. Okay.
Yes.
So let's go back to the Lindleys, if I may, and I will
Yes.
quit as soon as possible.
No,
But
you're good.
if you think about the implication, is that I think there was an awful lot of people in our U.S. government that were not happy with the outcomes. They were singing out of one side of their mouth when on the other side was really wanting the other side to win, because it would have given them unparalleled power and control of people. I don't think they were happy. Particularly the bankers weren't happy. And so what did they decide to do? Go after the people that caused the fall of Germany. You can go, you know, people say, well, you're mind reading there. What other reason could they have done what they did? Oh, it was a clerical error, but it took us till 1973 to fix it. Oh, and by the way, everybody thinks that Russia doesn't do what's right. You know, I praise zero amount. But here's the one thing we can say. They paid off the Lindleys in 2006. We don't hear that in the media, do we? And here's the other thing. But Germany still owes. The UK still owes. Tell me.
Wow.
What is the relevance of that information? So the people who fought and died the most paid the first, and they also paid the most.
Right.
In terms of life. And honestly, it was, I think, the Vanguard Party, particularly so in Russia, was a reaction not just to the Romanov Tsarism and all, but it was a defensive move in anticipation that as soon as they gained their popularity in the people, that capitalist nations would come against them. And they did, at least ideologically. And when it became convenient to court them for World War II purposes, they would. But afterwards, it was Katie by the door.
Wow. Yeah. So it's them being reactionary to that.
And their suspicions of capitalism and capitalists and America were confirmed. I'm so sorry to say that. So everybody wants to look at history through American lens. Quit fucking doing that.
Please go to other countries also, and not just the country you're I go to that
Vietnam.
But I go to as well, because they also to teach history. But when they teach history in their schools, they don't just teach their own. And when they do history, they don't just do the country started here, they had kings. They tell the story as it was their own country, because
I gotta say, if it's all right, I apologize. I don't mean to interject. I interrupt. Okay. Now I tend to get into some really secret ass groups. Don't ask me how I do it. Don't ask me what I do to do it. Okay. But
because
that's right. So what I do is I go in with people from various nations, all part of our movement. And you know what the Russians tell me? They would go first in their revolution against Putin. But the moment they're afraid, the moment they start doing so and wearing down the Russian military, because obviously Putin would use them against them, that they're afraid that the US empire and other imperialistic nations will jump in, of course, playing the white savior, but in doing so, will implement their own power structure in Russia in cooperation with Putin in order to preserve his power.
Woo!
So people fighting for freedom will be dominated unless we go first. They're saying the United States needs to go first in their revolution, because otherwise nobody's going to think their revolution is possible. And they're afraid that until we do, that we're going to constantly interfere in their acts toward freedom.
That's pretty logical thinking, actually.
I don't make this shit up.
Right. I mean, I would
I'm
be
not that
terrified.
good.
Russia, global warming is happening, and there are, they had the ice breaking ship. That was them that engineered this so that they could break the ice so that they could make trade to people on the other side. Well, they haven't needed to. It's just getting bigger. And so trade is a lot easier. Well, that makes a lot more money. I mean, there are a few superpowers on this planet that would immediately have whoever they have there that is, sleeper, they'd be wide awake.
Absolutely. I so agree. I don't necessarily have to accept if people agree with anything that I say. That's fine. I'm okay if people disagree, want to debate me or whatever. I don't do debates unless it's on email and
Right.
we can fact check each other. I don't believe in theatrical debates.
Yes.
I don't believe in that. I don't believe where you can gish gallop me to fucking death with some kind of something. I know it seems unfair that I come here kind of somewhat unprepared, but I will go over this again, and I will look at everything I said, and I will provide links supporting them. And if I don't, fucking hold me to it. Shame me as shit. My Gmail is apetivist@gmail.com. Okay? Tell LEAH Podcast that I'm a piece of shit for not citing my sources. All right? Do it.
You could just want him for his sources and he will happily give them.
Right, I will happily give them, but I want to assure that I provide every one of them at the end of this because I want to get on it. All right, I was unsuccessfully prepared. And like I said, I was working on shit on my phone and it went out of juice without my realization.
Yeah, so. I think it was what happened with my audio and, a couple other things too. You've been wonderful. There's so much in that brain of yours. I can pick any topic and learn something new, have stuff that I need to look up. Like that's a blessing to me.
Well, I'm the same with you. It's the same with you. Anytime I listen to,
I have to watch. What is the name of that documentary for everyone again? Brutes.
Exterminate All the Brutes.
That's what I'm watching tonight because.
Oh my God! I gotta tell you.
And I have
by the director Raoul Peck, and I cannot. Oh my goodness, that documentary.
It's a prerequisite for anyone
to be a leftist in this present.
Yes.
Yes.
About any of this, about the future, about the past, about leadership, about the world, about everything.
Something about Raoul Peck is that he doesn't necessarily give his political views.
That's so important. Listen, when I talk to someone who has a ideology or belief that is, I know I can show you that it's not true. I don't tell them that. I just ask them questions, and I never let them know anything about mine or imply like, oh well, yeah, different that way. No, I just leave it out of it.
I gotta tell you something. I gotta tell you something. Yes, here where I'm looking on Google at Exterminate All the Brutes, and it's got a 6.8 on IMDb. You know why? I got my own suspicions as to why it's got such a low rating.
I do too, actually.
I don't go by ratings. I don't go by ratings. I really
Listen,
don't.
you know for a fact that Google and Facebook are guilty of, and YouTube, guilty of going to specific channels and deleting the negatives.
Yes, and unsubscribing people. Do you know what Twitter did? Do you know what Twitter did with me?
From Lee Camp and the Humanist Report multiple times.
Right. That's right. Yes. You know what happened to me on Twitter? All right. I was getting several thousand people following me each month.
So popular.
Once I passed, well, I don't know how, I don't know why, but it's just, I don't know, fluke, whatever. But anyway, people were following me in droves. Now, I don't want people to follow me in the sense that I want them to be their own, I want them to be their own person, to develop their own perspectives. But if I can assist in that process, I appreciate it. That you might say, hey, you helped me with something. Oh, that's great. But you know what? Oftentimes they help correct me as well and help me get online, help me get in a proper perspective.
That's why we need each other. That's why it's oh God.
So there's no such thing as a person so yeah.
I guess I'm not a big girl.
Oh, you poor sweetie. But really, what happened is I went to Oribi Analytics, and I actually paid them, and they were telling me that my website alone, which had at the time 161 pages, was getting. Are you ready for this?
I'm holding on.
26.4 million views per year.
Woo! Yes.
But you know what Google? But do you know what Google told me?
With all the sources. That's why.
You know what Google told me?
Oh no.
13,000 in my first year and only 19,000 my second year.
Yeah.
So
I said, you know too much, bro. You need to show
I thought to myself, what's going on? And the moment I started putting right up on my motherfucking Apetivist description, my bio.
Yeah.
I literally said, oh fuck, what did I say? Socialist, solidarity, end all money, and then what I saw almost an instant was I could never get past 12.8. After that, 12.8 is what it was. It never went up. And also, and this is when I was most politically active. Okay, so I'm suspicious of that. I'm suspicious of that. And of course, I don't, honestly, if I only had 10 followers, as long as those people didn't have their heads up their ass, I'm fine with that, But what I saw was months on end, months and months on end. Okay. And honestly, I became very disillusioned with social media, not just the negative aspect, but the sheer fact that they can control what people see, who gets in, who gets immediately unfollowed. And I did not know all the people that follow me. I can't possibly do that. But there was a special group of people, I would just call you guys the insiders, who, guys, when I say guys, gals, and them, all of them, that you shaped my life. You shaped my life. You touched my life. You helped me become a better person.
Same.
You helped me become a better thinker. And you opened my heart and mind to things that I didn't think was even fathomable to the individual I was before I got on it. In fact, if you had told my former self before I joined Twitter that I'd be saying these things today, I wouldn't have believed you.
It's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? I think the same thing.
We're not special because we could change. It's just that, it's a beautiful thing to change towards a more mature and humanistic view of life.
Right. And it's
a more
knowing
humane view of life. That is.
You and others, like you said, the special humans in our lives in this community that if I am feeling sad, I know it's not like I feel like, I know I could leave a message and say, I really need to talk to you. I need someone to talk to. I wouldn't, it would be like, I am, if they were busy, listen, I'm in the middle of the grocery store. As soon as I get home, you pick up the phone, I'm calling you. Or do you need, I just,
how you are.
Yeah. And that first year of letting go of magical thinking, I did on my own. I wasn't really involved with YouTube or anything. I mean, I was watching, I just didn't really participate. Once I started, my whole everything changed, just for the better.
Because you got out from under a finger of oppression, but the whole hand is still pushing on us. So we got to get the whole thing off of us. We got to stop this oppression and constant pressure from external forces in our life.
And like I told you earlier when we were talking, once I realized I have all of these amazing people that I can learn from and be open with and let go of, we evolved here. We're mammals, and just all acceptance. I remember I told you, I just instantly had never felt more free in my life.
Yes.
And I'm so free because
once we get a taste of liberation,
knowledge,
it's hard to stop wanting to continue that evolvement of
it will never stop. It's
right. And not just the learning, but the liberation from things that hold us down and back, keeping us from progressing and evolving as people, from growing and learning, from accepting things that even if they're strictly uncomfortable to us, even about our own self, we have to own up to it.
Right. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of that I learned was, here's some new information that contradicts what I know as a fact, because that's what science knew as a fact, but new science came in and now we have to change it. For me now, it's just like, okay, well, that was wrong. We have more information. I'm
knowledge
smarter.
Is tentative.
Or knowledge if you don't know, I'm able to be like, that we don't know yet. And I'm not going to fill it with something because I'm, an ape living on a rock in the middle of space and going, I need an answer.
Right. Any answer will do. And any white savior will do. Or any politician, no matter what their color, if they say they've got all the answers and will save us from the world, we just got to follow them like lemmings. But the truth is, no, we need to stop these negative patterns of behavior.
Yeah, if someone wants to be a leader, people, and they use these words, and only I can fix it, run away as fast as possible, because they're crazy. That's crazy shit.
Right. It was said by EJ in Non-Compete, E. American Johnson. He said, hierarchies are fine as long as they're justified, in the sense, like, imagine you being on a ship, right? And you need to depend on the depth of information of a person like a captain. And you're going to be responsible to your shipmates to do those things that are necessary, that he says, please do these things. Make sure you did this. Make sure that it's tied off. Make sure that we're heading in this direction. Do this or that. Because you want to be socially responsible to your teammates, you actually cooperate. It's not necessarily that he says, if you don't do this, I'm going to throw you off the ship or make you walk the plank, right? So
it's not the 1700s.
Right, but the chances are, if you don't do all that and you get off that ship, nobody's gonna want you on their other ships. Word will travel. What I like about the idea of anarchism is that create your own social interaction value, in the sense that if you're a complete asshole and things are done on a commune level, and commune integrates with other communes, and we talk through federations. Look, I'm not talking about China's social credit bullshit, but honestly, we don't have to do that necessarily, because word travels, my friend, especially if we keep the internet going at that time. And we're not doing that to shame people to the degree that we want them to not improve. But there has to be consequences for negative human behavior.
Right?
When you're not socially responsible toward other people, there needs to be consequences. By the way, there are no consequences for what Biden does. There was no consequences, and I doubt there will be any consequences for what Trump did. I'm serious.
I'm with you on that. I will be.
There will be no consequences.
If anything,
if anything, he will be charged some punitive monetary aspect, and all of his followers will pay that for him. And really, he'll get away scot-free. I don't see
what's
prison.
her name? Ghislaine Maxwell? Is she in prison?
Nope.
No.
Yeah.
If I did just like a fifth of the things that she's charged with, I'd be locked up.
If you did 1%, you'd be locked up. But she's,
I mean,
but she's part of the 1%, or she served the 1%. So therefore, you know.
Right.
And what about this? What about this? All right. Bill Gates using Jeffrey Epstein to influence the Nobel Prize.
I was just reading about that recently. I thought, you know what, you
did
asshole.
he have to do with the Nobel Prize laureate? Nobel Prize, I apologize. The chair, all these people. What did a radical pederster and have to do with the Nobel Peace Prize Committee?
Exactly.
Get the fuck out. I don't, honestly, I can see why a lot of people don't trust science.
And why would
that a lot of it is authoritarian and a lot of it is made up. We gotta be more transparent.
You were shamed by using that. I mean, why wouldn't you think I can't use this? I can't say this. What part of his brain said it was okay?
Because they think they can get away with anything, to be honest. And how about this? Right. And you know, I can complain about things, but you know, I'm offering solutions here as well. Right? I've been talking about the solutions. Okay. So honestly, I don't want to just be complaining, but if we don't at least address the reality of the situation, we're not going to we're not going to energize people to want to fucking change the system.
Agree.
All right. So we need to be honest about what we're facing. We need to be, even if it estranges the people the most to you. I'm not saying that everybody is meant to be an activist, but if you got that, I'll call it burning in your bosom. That's so funny. But if you got that desire, that passion in you, I've had to say goodbye to the majority of my family. I've had to say goodbye to a lot of friends. In fact, I can tell you this one thing. I've had people that the moment they found out that I was pro-communism, I was called all type of names. You know, I don't go around trying to look to be persecuted, but I never went on their pages saying or doing or DMing me with these terrible, nasty things. But you know, here's a bright side of things. A European university professor told me, believe this or not, and I'll show you the email. He said, I just want to let you know that I teach my students things you say. And I was like, what? I teach my students many things that you say. And I cite you as a source. And I tell them, I don't know who this guy is. And I was like, wow. And I was like surprised.
Right.
And then I went to a look, I'm not trying to toot my horn, but let me just toot just a teeny bit. All right. I went to thinklabs.com, and thinklabs.com said I was in like somewhere in the top 500 most influential people on social media. Now, that didn't make any sense to me. How
Right.
can I be with the numbers I have? That didn't make any sense to me.
Mm,
So what was giving? Was ThinkLabs lying,
right.
or is Google lying? I don't know. I'll never
Well,
know, but I can have some. But you know what? I don't, I want to be influential in a positive way, but I don't want to mislead people because I've had to many times walk back my shit. All right.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with what they
For doing so,
were
because that's
self-correcting.
true.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Eat crow. Eat crow. If you have to eat crow, eat
Yes.
crow.
Yes, the best part about being wrong is now you get to be right.
Right. It's like in the martial arts. When I taught my students, whether they were military or otherwise. Now, I'm sorry. Whether they were military or otherwise, I told them this.
Right.
Never lose your temper when someone gets the best of you in a physical match. The general aspect of this is you must be thankful that they revealed something you need to work on. And you should be humble enough and kind enough to thank them and to always leave that encounter in a positive attitude. Because I always saw it as not competition, but as a cooperative way as improving one another, just like you and I might have in this discussion. And I wish the world would embrace those ideas. We would be so much better off. That's all I got to say.
Okay, well, actually, that was pretty gosh darn perfect because the alarm says 1 minute and we've been talking for 1 hour and 40 minutes. So
Okay.
that was actually, absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Would love to have you come back as many times as you would like. We can actually,
Let me know and I'll be there.
Information, we can study it and actually go hard on one topic, or we can
Absolutely.
have conversations, whatever you want. I love you, my Uncle
Thank you
Abe.
so much.
I love my aunt.
You're my niece. My niece,
So-
Christy. Yeah.
And I know that I could call you if I needed to talk about anything, and I mean anything.
I hope all my friends know that. Unless I'm having a medical emergency or I'm literally, I got to admit that to do conversation, I have to double up on my pain medications.
Right, of course.
Okay.
Of
Because
course.
otherwise, I'm not decipherable.
No, and I understand. I get it, and that's why we were very, very. I don't even want to say the word blessed, but just what a pleasure to have you here tonight. The Native Americans, the indigenous of this world, they find that listening to and having as many conversations with people who are older than you is the most important part of a community, because I haven't done things that you've done all different kinds of ways.
But I've not done things you've done.
Right. And so we share those experiences, but I get your wisdom from, I hope that I have your wisdom when I turn in 10 years, I hope I have 10 years more.
Are you kidding me? You're light years ahead of me in the sense of the head start.
Oh.
Think about it. I didn't even start, quote unquote, becoming illuminated in 2012. Okay. So prior to that time, I was a rock hard, solid conservative libertarian Ayn Rand objectivist who completely believed that corporations had the right to walk all over everyone because they had the intellectual right to do so.
Right.
So I'm not trying to paint all libertarians as assholes, but I can admit I was quite one. And I have to fess up to that. Now, you know what the other aspect is? I'd like to
What?
just say this one thing about that show, Exterminate All the Brutes.
Okay.
There's one scene I'm going to ruin for you a little bit, okay?
Okay.
We all know about Wounded Knee. What we don't know necessarily is what was said before the violence. They said, we want you to remove yourself. We've already given you time to do so because we want to grow. We want this land so we can grow crops for our soldiers. You understand? So
Right.
the pretext is always incorrect in our history books. And Raoul Peck knew this, all right? He looked back at what the American indigenous peoples had to say about it, who were able to escape and get out of this situation, who heard the leader of this tribe, the Sioux woman, walk towards the henchmen of the U.S. Army.
Oh,
And she said, why do you threaten with violence what you can get through love?
Right.
And she said, what
understand.
kind of person are you? And he raised his gun and shot her in the head and said, that's the kind of person I am.
I don't want people like that.
We have too many people like that already in power. Might makes right. Whether it's theism or otherwise, might does not make you right. Whether it's imperialism or anything, it doesn't make you right. You're not superior to other people.
Definitely think about that. We'll leave it on that note because that is so serious. And I love you guys. Thanks for coming and spending this time with me and listening to one of my favorite people to talk to. I hope you guys all enjoyed my Uncle Apetivist. Check him out. I love you guys and stay humanist for godless sakes.
Yes, absolutely.